Okay, this video is going to walk through a demonstration of assembling the 5 parts for the puzzle cube. If you look here on the screen, I have my 5 parts set up. I've got a blue piece, a green piece, orange piece, pink, and red piece. We're going to put these pieces into an assembly file and then constrain them to assemble the puzzle cube. First thing that we'll do is we're going to go to File, New, and we're going to start a new type of file here, standard in inches, Inventor Assembly, standard.iam. Select that and create. As always, close out this message when you see it. Okay, in this assembly file, we're going to place what our first part is, and that's going to be our red piece, and we're going to ground it. We're going to select place. Now, right now I'm in my puzzle folder. You might need to kind of navigate through, find your folder, and find your puzzle parts. We're going to start with our red piece. We're going to select that, click open. Now, you see here it's floating in front of my mouse pointer. I'm going to click it. And you'll notice it will let me click 2. I really don't want 2, so before I click that second time, I'm going to hit escape on my keyboard to close out the place tool. Before I go any farther, I'm going to move over here on the browser, right click on the red piece, and select grounded. You'll notice there's a push pin there. Now if I go into my window, that piece will no longer move. It's locked. This is the only piece that I'll ground. Every other piece I'm going to leave free to move, and then I'll use this tool, constrain, to attach them to the red piece. Alright, next piece that we're going to place is our pink piece. We're going to find that, and we're going to open it. I'm going to place it here. Just one of it. We'll hit escape. Now, the pink piece, this projection here fits into this slot. And to make that happen, I'm going to zoom in on this a little bit. We're going to use the constrain tool. Now, there's several different types of constraints we can use. But constraints allow us to attach or align different parts and keep them that way. Alright, so when we open up the constraint tool, we're using this first type of constraint here, which is called mate. There's 2 types of mate constraint. There's mate, where one surface touches another surface, and there's flush, where 2 surfaces are aligned side by side. We're going to start with mate and mate. So the first thing we're going to select is for this projection to go back here, we know that that surface there, see the little arrow pointing out, is going to touch that surface here. And click that. It's going to pop into place. Now, it's touching. We're going to click apply, but you'll notice, let's close this out for a second. You'll notice that this can still slide up and down. It's touching, but it can still slide around. Alright, this comes into our next set of constraints. So we'll open up our constraint tool again, mate. Only this time we're going to use what's called the flush constraint. To do that, we're going to come over here, and we want this end to line up with this end. So we'll select both of those, and that slides it over. When we click apply, those are now flushed. So checking that again, we'll notice that we've got this all lined up, but it's still free to move in one direction. We have 2 constraints, but it still moves. If you think about rectangular objects, you have 3 directions. You have your X, your Y, and your Z axes. Well, we need 3 constraints to completely limit the movement of our rectangular parts in those directions. So we're going to do one more mate, flush, constraint. We're going to identify that top surface and this top surface and apply. Okay, our pink piece is now fully constrained to our red piece. They can't move around. We can rotate here, just kind of look at how that fits. That's pretty good. And we're going to leave them like that. At this point, we're ready to place another piece into our puzzle. We'll go over here to place. And I think the next piece we want to put in here is our green piece. We're going to select that green piece, open it up, put it over here, and hit escape so we don't get more than 1. After we've escaped, we're going to start to constrain these pieces. Now, we're going to use the same set of constraints as we did before. Only now we're going to maybe rotate to maybe a side view here. Because we're going to have to do something interesting. We're going to do a little rotating in our constraining, because we're going to first constrain this surface to that surface. So we're going to constrain, mate constraint, mate. This surface needs to touch that surface, and it's going to slide it over and click apply. Now, just like with the other time, we've got a few flush constraints to add. So we're still here on our constraint tool. We're going to go mate and flush. The end to the end, click apply, and it's going to slide it over. And then again, side to side, and I'll slide it over. And one more. I think I made an error there. So let's go here to constraint again. And we're doing a flush constraint. We want our top surfaces to be flush, apply, and then our end surfaces to be flush, apply. Okay, I think we got them in the right order that time. Alright, so now we have our green piece constrained inside our puzzle. We'll close this out, go back to our home view, and we're ready to place our third piece. Third piece is going to be our orange piece. So we're going to bring that in. Alright, now this orange piece isn't rotated the way that we would want it to be when we apply it. So knowing how this puzzle goes together, I know that this front surface here needs to touch that front surface. So we're going to apply those, and then we're going to watch what happens. So if we choose constrain, we're starting again with mate, mate. And we're going to use this surface, except it's going to stick over here to this surface. You notice they're at 90 degrees to each other. Watch what happens when we apply that constraint. It rotates the piece for us. So just keep that in mind, that as you are constraining your parts, you don't need to rotate them using the rotate tool. You can simply apply the constraints to the correct surfaces, and the constraints will force the piece to rotate. Okay, all of these parts will require 3 constraints. Usually, your last 2 will be flush constraints. We're going to select this surface and our existing surface of the cube, apply. Now if we look over here, this piece is a little low. That's because we need to change it up here. And so once again, we're on flush, and we're going to constrain here to here and apply. Okay, if we look at our puzzle cube, we are fairly close to done. And hopefully, the last piece we have is L-shaped and will fit into that notch. So let's go back to our home view, and we'll place our final piece, which is a blue piece. And there we go. Here's our L-shaped blue piece. Okay, only want one of those. Now, thinking through how this goes, that blue piece is going to have to lay down inside this section here. So, once again, constrain, mate, mate, surface to surface, and that rotates it in place. We're getting close. And then we're going to go with a mate flush for our second constraint, here to here, apply. And then again, mate flush for this surface to that surface here, apply. Okay, we've now, for all of our pieces, we've constrained them. We have our puzzle cube assembled. We can have a kind of rotate around, take a look at it, and return it maybe to our home view. Alright, this is the assembly process for putting your puzzle parts together into an assembly file using constraints. Remember that each piece is going to have 3 constraints. Your first constraint will be mate. Your second 2 constraints will be flush. Pay careful attention to how your puzzle goes together. If you need to play with the parts, you can. But good luck. Have fun.